While most may think that repeating affirmations and creating vision boards is enough to achieve their vision, Regan Hillyer approaches this work differently. Join me and self-made multi-millionaire, serial entrepreneur, success coach, and keynote speaker Regan Hillyer for a major reality check on mindset. In this episode, you'll learn what it really takes to shift your mindset, how to unlock real abundance in your life, and the one addiction you need to break in order to create massive momentum with your earning capacity. Regan believes that it's possible to live a truly abundant life and have it all if we agree to abandon a limiting mindset and instead choose beliefs that attract abundance. She has proven this idea many times by having trained thousands of people, helping them build multiple 6- and 7-figure businesses locations free, using powerful mindset changing tools and cutting-edge business development strategies. Regan is committed to her passion to help others achieve extensive financial and personal abundance, and powered by the vision where every human has the ability to unlock his or her greatness. This is truly a powerful episode filled with major truth bombs. So be prepared to take notes as we learn how to unlock abundance with Regan Hillyer. Hey, thought leaders, I am back with a very special guest, and I'm excited to have her on the show. Regan Hillyer, welcome to today's Thought Leader.
Hey, Ruby, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you.
Yeah, we're in the same city right now,
Yay.
both on our video calls. But this is the blessing that we have with technology, I guess.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And it's so nice to do an interview and know you're in the same place as someone, because I'm usually not. And, I'm usually on the other side of the world.
Yeah. So this is cool. Regan, I have been diving into your content and watching some of your videos, and what I find to be really interesting about you and the way in which you work with money mindset with people is it feels like there's so much more depth to the work that you do versus let me just slap an affirmation on this and hopefully it transpires in my life, or let me just create a vision board and then hopefully it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. There's so many people that are playing with, mindset and energy and in that realm, and they're not really getting to the core of it. They're kind of looking at the surface and trying to just look for the easy answer, to be honest. Like, oh, let me just do affirmations and then everything's going to change. And it's like, well, no, that's not always necessarily the case most of the time, Right. So it's really about being committed and going through the layers and using the right tools at the right time and actually getting to the core of what's actually going on so you can shift it.
Right. So what's your take on the word mindset? I feel like that word is thrown around a lot. And I think you have your own version of what that means and how you work with it. So I'm so curious to hear what you have to say about that.
Totally. So, when people say mindset, they're often talking just about, affirmations or things that you say in your head and just your thoughts, basically. And mindset for me is when I use that term, I'm really referring to the entire inner game, and yes, that's your belief system and your thoughts, but it's everything else. It's your state of being, it's your vibration that you're embodying, it's the frequency you're tapping into. Like, all of that for me is tagged through mindset, because we use the mind to use all of it, right? It's not about just conditioning the mind, but it's about using the mind as a crystal so we can purposely actually go into, some of these other realms as well.
Okay. So let's dive deeper into these other realms. So what I'm hearing is like we use the mind as like the entry point to get to these other realms that are hidden deeper that I think a lot of people's work doesn't really touch on, but yours does. So I want to hear more about these realms.
Yeah, absolutely. So for example, your vibration, right? Like I tell people all the time, you can think positive each and every single day, and you can realign your belief system and you can do all of that work. But if you're not in the vibration of what you're actually looking to call in, then it's not going to manifest. We create in our lives reflections in our external reality, and these reflections are always just a match of what's going on internally for us, And so if you want to manifest a certain amount of money, or maybe it's the relationship of your dreams, you've got to be feeling and living into that vibration. So this is where we use the mind and we go, okay, cool, I have a thought, I want to focus my whole system in this way. But then we're also using, say, the emotional body to actually get into the emotional state of having it done. And the thing that we're vibrating with the most emotionally is what's going to manifest, right? So let's say it's the partner of our dreams, right? And we know that, okay, I need to get into the vibration of already receiving love and feeling that I'm already in this beautiful divine partnership. And if that frequency and that emotion is not as strong as the fear that you're going to be alone forever, right, then you will continuously not attract the relationship, because the emotional content of the fear and the, oh my God, and what if it doesn't happen, is stronger than actually the intentional piece around, let me feel into this already being done.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm even thinking about some of my clients and even just my audience and our listeners right now, because a lot of them are people who are stepping into leadership. And quite often they'll say things like, oh, why isn't my message being heard? I'm doing this, and this, and it's all just not happening. Or why am I not making money with my purpose? Or why am I not speaking on stages? And so talk to us specifically about that, because I know that there is also like this sense of denial that could come from us being in this work, right? I think that we, for those of us who are in personal development, it can be really easy to assume that we know everything because we've quote unquote learned it already.
Yeah.
But I find that so many people are still getting stuck in their own shit, and they're like not willing to even see it. So how do you work with people who are repeating the same loops, who are blind to their own blocks? Like, how do you get them past that?
Yeah, well, I think firstly it's being humble enough to actually see your own blind spots, and I got caught in this trap years ago. It was probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and I was working with a mentor around calling in a specific amount of money through my business, and whatever I was doing, it just wasn't showing up. Like each month I would literally hit the same amount of money, give or take $5 or $10 probably, and I was like, why can't I increase my income? And I said to her, I was like, I've done all the internal work. Like, you've got no idea. Like, I've realigned my belief system. I've looked at all the fears. Like, I've done it all. There's nothing more to do.
Yeah.
And she looked at me and she's like, Regan, but like, if you're looking to call something into your reality and, it's not showing up right now in the physical, then there's something blocking it or stopping it. And I was like, yeah, I know that, but I've cleared out all the blocks already, so this doesn't make sense. And she looked at me and she's like, Regan, being humble enough to see your own blocks, not doing that, that's a block. And then I just got hit with this wave and I was like, wow, my block is that I've been so in this place of like, I've done all the work. I went to 10 seminars, like all this, and so much ego in that way, going, surely there can't be anything else to clear out, right? And the minute I dropped that, I was like, oh. And I was able to see that I was blocked in this way and blocked in that way. And I had this fear and I was worried about being seen at that next level. And I was all the stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then from that place of humbleness, I was actually able to look at it. So it's a really normal thing. My clients do it as well. And they get in this place and they're like, there's nothing more. And I'm like, okay, let's drop that firstly. And then from this place of curiosity and inquiry, let's look at maybe what you're not seeing.
Yeah, that's so good. And I love that you shared that story. Being humble is so, so important and crucial, because as teachers and leaders, it's important to also remember that we are forever students.
Yes.
And that in refining our gifts and our message, we're also benefiting our audiences.
Yes.
And I find that so many people have these blocks around money and have these blocks around abundance for an array of reasons, right? Their parenting, their programming, their cultural programming, their societal programming, whatever it is. And we're seeing people like you who are breaking those barriers and showing a different way of being, showing a different possibility. But how do we take, for example, say we have listeners right now and they're like, I really want to unlock that abundance within me. Like, I believe it's there, and yet I can't really tap into it.
Yeah, totally. And so, whatever internal work you're doing right now, whatever journaling or mindset work or energy work or whatever it is, I chat to a lot of people and they're like, yeah, I did this process to unlock it. And I'm like, well, you know what? My process is and was that I did it every damn day until it worked. Like there's a certain level of consistency which is required to take place, and it's not like you just go through some sort of rewiring practice in your mind once and it's done. You only have permission to do that if the result then instantly shows up and you're like, oh, okay, that worked, right? In which case you then actually move on to the next piece.
Right.
So, what I love to get people doing around money and tapping into abundance is firstly getting really clear on their vision. Why do you actually want to create this money? Because it's not about the money. Like you can have so much money, you're not going to like get it out from the bank and put it in your room and like roll around in it and like dress yourself in it. Like it's really not about
money.
I have
seen posts like that before.
It's true. It's very true.
However, we're talking about a different method here.
Right. Exactly. So it's not about the money. So what does the money give you? Like, why do you actually want the money? Because last time I checked, there's no one that's created a substantial amount of multiple millions of dollars just by going, you know what, I did it just because I was bored, or, I just like thought it'd be the next step, or like, it felt cool to make lots of money. No, there's like a really powerful reason behind that. And what does that look like? And it's really about being unapologetic with what that's about. I have some people and I'm like, why do you want to make more money? And they're like, oh, so I can be of greater service to the world and contribute to humanity. Namaste. And I'm like, why do you really want the money? Like, come on, like it's great.
Let's get real.
Let's get real. And that if that's not their truth and deep down they're like, you know what? I actually really want to go on this holiday with my partner because we've had no time together in the last 3 years and it's this like amazing resort. I'm like, okay, now I feel your fire, right? Like now we're talking. Now we can actually have an emotional piece behind that. And so too many people are trying to create from a place of what they should be doing or what's expected of them, or what the logical next piece is, rather than just unapologetically going, you know what, I want this, and that's going to cry out this much money, and this is going to create a life in this way. And so once you're clear on that, it's so important for this, for the second step, to actually expand your container, right, and increase your capacity to receive, because if we can't hold the money that's looking to come through, then it's going to just fire past us, right? We're not going to be able to catch the client that invests. We're not going to be able to see the opportunity and say yes to it. There's money all around us all the time. It's energy. It's literally flying around us. It's infinite. Yet if our container is not big enough, we're not able to do that. So how do you do that? I love doing this by going, okay, cool. This vision that you unapologetically wrote out in step number 1, if that was already done, if that was your reality, if you were living into that, if you woke up and that was just your life tomorrow, what would you be asking for? Like, what's your vision then? Because if that's manifesting $100,000 in cash and you have that, you're not going to be just like, oh, now I'll just aim for the same thing. Like, there's going to be a bigger goal. And then usually this breaks people's brain and they're like, I don't know, like I just did the unapologetic big thing in step number 1. Like, how do I do this again? Like, this feels big, and it should feel uncomfortable. Yeah. But once you start stretching into that, something interesting happens. You start getting into this reality and unapologetically asking for that next vision. And then step number 1, which was so big, it just becomes a stepping stone energetically. And we start having a different feeling, a different emotional charge around it. Yeah. And then we start going, okay, well, all right, well, that has to happen in order for this vision number 2 to happen. Right. So it starts to flow a little bit bigger. So that's generally where I start people.
Yeah, it's breaking people's minds. That's where you start people.
Exactly. Yes.
Regan Hillyer, the mind breaker.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and I love that you say breaking people's minds, because it really is. It's like completely abolishing someone's paradigm or previous system that they've been operating on. Like at the core of their being, this is what they've believed. Like, I'm only capable of earning this amount, or I'm only capable of achieving this amount. We put caps on everything.
Yes.
And limits on everything. And so it sounds like what you're really doing is helping them like shatter those limitations and step into the limitless.
Exactly. And this is true as well when it comes to income goals. If I'm working with a client and, let's say they did $20,000 the previous month, and I'm like, what's your goal for this month? And they're like, well, $25,000. I'm like, where did that number come from? Like really, because when I see that and people are trying to go, well, this month I'll do 25 and the next month I'll do 30 and the next month I'll do 35, they're often creating from a place of like what is logical, right? And what did someone else do? And what's like the logical next layer or the step? Guess what? Money's not logical. And if you look at, you know, when I launched my business, I think I went from like 30K to 100K within 1 month, right? And so these jumps and these quantum leaps are totally possible. And they're wanting to come through you. They're wanting to come through your channel. And, you know, if you're asking for 25, but 75 is looking to come through, then guess what? That 25 is out of alignment. And then that's going to keep you looping in the same place because you're not actually tapping into your potential. I really encourage people to really go each month and go, okay, what am I actually calling in? What's my income goal? Not from a place of like, what's logical or how does that happen? But what's the number that's truly in resonance? Now there's a trap on this because let's say someone just did 20K and then they like, okay, what's your real goal that you're feeling is in resonance? And they're like $742,000 for the next month, right? If people set up these huge numbers, which I have seen people do as well, and they're like, that's what's in resonance, then often that can be a self-sabotage when we swing too far out of the pendulum. Because then what we do is we go 725, right? And we do this. And then at the end of the month, we obviously don't hit it. Right. And then our system goes, see, it's not possible. Let me go back to my comfort zone. Yeah. It acts as evidence that you can't do it. And you set yourself up to do that unconsciously. So you can sabotage it so you don't actually move forward. So you stay where you're at because it's more comfortable for your system unconsciously. Right? Yeah,
perpetuating the loop that you've ever been stuck in.
Exactly. So it's getting into this place where you're really feeling like, okay, what is the next level if there were no rules? However, what is also, it should have this energy of like, oh, that's big, but I'm going to do it. That's big and I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. Not like, that's so huge. You know, it shouldn't be out of your capacity to feel it. That's how you know that you're in alignment with it.
Right. So you can actually feel what it would be like to have that amount of money versus creating a goal that's so far-fetched and so far out of reach that within you actually believe that it's unattainable, thus self-sabotaging.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like if I look at my life doing multiple millions of dollars a year, and if I was like, okay, next month I'm going to do $1 billion, like, okay, that's great. But I can't feel that. Like, I don't have the emotional coding in this present moment to go, I actually know what that feels like. There's work in there. There's expansion in there. There's actually getting clear on what would I even do with $1 billion? Like, you know, there's so many layers to take place. And so for me, that would be like a self-sabotage if I was holding that as a realistic goal each month.
Yeah. That's a great example too, because I think a lot of people do swing on that pendulum, right? They start to get into mindset work and then they think, oh, well, I'm working on my mindset. So I'm going to start earning $1 million a month. And maybe they've only been doing 10K months. And then I've also seen this, especially online in the entrepreneurial space, is everyone's kind of going after this specific number because everyone else is going after that same number. I mean, for a while it was like the 10K months, and we were seeing that trend where like, I want to hit 10K in 10 days, or I want to hit 10K in 30 days. But it's like, why do you want to hit that? And I think that's the piece where a lot of people, like I know myself, I've done a lot of work on this, and the why was the piece where it's like, oh, like diving into that and understanding like, what am I actually going to do with this money? Why is it important to me specifically versus like these rules, you know, quote unquote rules that are out there, or the shoulds that are out there, or like whatever everyone else is doing.
Exactly. And if you're not clear on that and you strategically kind of figure it out, I promise you won't sustain it. You know, you'll hit it and then you'll bounce back if you don't have these powerful forces driving you.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I feel like we see a lot of people doing that. And I've witnessed a lot of my friends doing this. I have done it, you know, and you hit this cap that has maybe been your goal for a while, and you hit it financially and you're like, wow, this feels great. I have this. And then like the brakes go on, the limits come back with a vengeance. Like, what is that?
Yeah, so there's so many things which can go on in this place, right? And one of the things that I see is like people hit it and they hit this goal, and unconsciously their system relaxes. And they go, oh, I've hit the goal. Okay, yay. Okay, I've done it. Okay. And they kind of take their foot off the pedal. And that might be with action. That might be with their internal work. That might be with their money tracking, like whatever it is each day that they're doing. They kind of relax. And it's in our human nature to do that. Like we've somehow been conditioned to do that. Oh, you hit the goal, like now you take a week off. And it's like, that's actually your moment to move. Like that's your moment to go for it with your action, with your mindset, with your everything, because you're in momentum. Something's working, something's clicked, like you've done it. Yay, now do it again. Keep going, right? And so there's this piece around actually continuously moving forward. And one of the other things that I see as well is that people often hit these certain income levels, but they're not conditioned to stabilize them. They're not conditioned to stabilize them. So for example, they've been so focused on going, let me generate 10K, let me generate 10K, let me have my first 10K month. And they're all about this, but they haven't done any work on how do I keep 10K? Right? How do I sustain 10K? And they're not even often thinking past the 10K. They're just like 10K, 10K, 10K. And it's such a big goal that they're like, oh, wait, what happens now? 15, 20? What? I don't have any alignment for that right now. And so often they bounce around it, or they even bounce back because it's safer and more comfortable. Because, you know, if we're aligning for 10K and we haven't considered what is this piece on the other side? Is it 15? Is it 30? Like, what is the next layer? If we haven't considered that, our unconscious mind literally goes, okay, this piece of 10K, this goal point, this pinpoint and moment of time, if I don't know what's on the other side of that, then I'm going to mark that automatically as death. I'm going to mark it as it's dangerous and your system may not be safe. And so I'm going to do whatever it takes to either keep you there or pull you back to where I know was safe, right? So if we're not showing our mind, hey, it's actually real safe at 30K, right? And it looks real good. And I get to do this. And it's actually better. If we're not conditioning ourselves a layer above that, then our system defaults back to where we know is safe.
Yeah. It's like, you know, how Marianne Williamson talks about that, you know, our greatest fear is, oh God, what's the quote? Our greatest fear is, something about success.
Yeah. And that we're inadequate, I think.
Yeah. Inadequate of our success. And it's so much of that. And you're so right with the stabilization. It's like, we are programmed, I think, from just the way that the schooling system goes, right? You hit this grade, then you celebrate, then you move on to the next grade. Like, it's just very sequential, and there's no, even opportunity for us to dream bigger than that. And so we grow up being programmed to live our lives this way. And it's so different. And I loved what you said about what happens when we hit the goals. Yes, we hit the goals, and then we often dive into reward and celebration. And then what?
Exactly.
And then it becomes like a rinse and repeat because it feels easier.
Yes. Yeah. There's that as well. And you know, often if, let's say, people generate the 10K, then again, if they're not actually conditioned to keep the 10K or leverage the 10K or reinvest the 10K, if they don't have that conditioning, then often they'll disperse the 10K out somewhere into the universe. And then they'll get into a place where they're like, oh my goodness, like now I need to make more money because I'm struggling again. I'm in pain again. And so it's this very deep addiction to struggle. Right? It's this deep addiction to scarcity and struggle, where we keep ourselves in this loop of constantly having to create and move forward, quote unquote, but from this wounded place, you know, not from an expansive, abundant, what's next place. And I want to say as well, this is not, I keep using the 10K example because it was brought up, not just at this mark. I work with people who are making millions of dollars a year, and they generate huge chunks of cash flow, and then it goes away. And I'm like, where did that go? And they're keeping themselves at the multi-million-dollar mark, looping, because they still have an addiction to struggle. And the minute we see that and we can clear that and we can go, actually, I'm not choosing to play into that vibration anymore. Let me come into an expansive place of abundance. The minute we shift that, everything can click, and they can not only sustain the money, but they can increase their income faster.
Right. So what I'm hearing is a big, what I'm hearing is a big part of unlocking abundance is clearing that addiction to struggle that so many of us have.
So many of us have it. And, you know, for everyone listening in right now, I just encourage you to look at yourself, look at your life, look at your money, look at your business, and ask yourself, like, where am I still creating a struggle? You know, where am I controlling the process? Where am I getting in the way of all this? You know, I ask myself that all the time because there's still these little residual pieces which show up, you know, and I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. I'm like micromanaging this thing with my team, which I'm finding really hard. Why am I doing that? Oh, addiction to struggle coming back in. And the minute I step out of that and I shift that and I clear that, then everything starts to open up and I receive more abundance, you know? So it's often, especially as you create more and more abundance, it's often the little micro shifts that really count. People think, you know, especially with a high level of abundance, you've got to, you know, make these huge changes to get different results. No, actually, it's like shifting something 1 degree. You know, it's witnessing yourself in 30 seconds of struggle. It's these little tiny pieces where if you have the awareness to catch them, then everything can shift drastically.
Yeah, that was like one of the pieces I loved in, I believe it was a talk you did for Mind Valley. I watched that, and you were talking about how it doesn't have to be this big thing. Like, you can sit and you can do this thing over and over and over again for many, many days, and it can be easy.
Yes.
It can be this easy. And it was, I know that probably aggravates people when they hear it, because they're like, but it isn't easy. Like, I've tried all the things. But what you're talking about and what you just shared, and what I want our listeners to really understand, is Regan just talked about the shifts in the mind. And I feel like we get so caught up in the doing. Like, we feel like we have to do more and meditate more and pray more and journal more and do these things, that we forget to bring it back into our body.
Yes.
I really feel so strongly that is what you're describing.
Yeah. And this whole concept of it being easy can be confused. You know, people sometimes think easy is like not doing anything.
Right.
You know? And they're like, but I'm working so hard. How could this be easy? Yeah, easy is a state of being. It's a vibration. You can be working like 14 hours a day or more and have it be easy. You know, you can tap into a place of ease and grace and flow. And I know everyone listening, you've all had a day, right, where you've just been in flow and things have just clicked into place, and you're like, oh, everything's just lining up, and you were in action, right? Like, maybe you got up super early and you went to bed really late, and there was a lot that happened, but you lie in bed and you're like, that was a good day. Like, all this stuff just happened, right? So easy doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I'm lying on the couch and doing nothing and shit's just happening around me. No. Easy's like, I'm doing the thing. I'm being obedient. Like, I'm taking action. I'm saying yes. I'm getting whatever I need done in my business. Like, you're still doing the do, but it's from a place of being supported and choosing that it gets to be easy, and choosing that it gets to be in flow, and catching any minutes that it's not, or any moments of struggle, and seeing that and shifting that and choosing a different vibration, you know?
Yeah. So like, in those moments of struggle, when you catch yourself, like, how can I make this easy?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I say that often. If I find, you know, a piece in my business where it's like, oh, it's just not clicking into place, or it's resistant, or it's taking a lot of hard work, I just always ask myself, right, how does this get to be easier? What could I do to make this easier? Easier on myself, easier with my team. Maybe we're just not listening. Wait, what is it? Is it a different strategy? Is it a different piece? Do I need to do some more internal work? Like, what is going to make this easier right now?
Yeah, it's funny, because I had, how can I make this easy, written on a sticky note on my desk for the longest time, because I recognize that I love to overcomplicate things, and I love to be in the struggle, and that's my programming. And so even that, just that reminder, it like snaps you out of it and gets you to start focusing on ways in which you can make it easy, which is often, I find, like, not the quote unquote normal ways of me doing things, but the normal ways hasn't really worked.
Right.
But stepping into like a different type of action, something that feels more aligned, and something that feels more aligned with the vision versus with the struggle or your past.
Exactly. And often when you're struggling, you're creating things not from an aligned place. You know, you're not aligned to your vision. Like, how many times are you like, this is so hard? Like, you're not connected to your vision. Like, you're not connected to your daily guidance. You're not asking for support. You're not surrendering and getting out of the way. Like, you're controlling the whole damn thing. And for whatever reason, you've disconnected from where you're actually heading.
Yeah. And again, like, listeners, what she's saying is, you're not just surrendering to everything and just laying on the ground doing nothing.
Right.
It's being more, I just keep hearing the word intentional, like being more intentional with everything, and being more aware of the ways in which you're showing up for yourself, for your mission, for your message, for your money, for your abundance.
Yes.
So, and that's really, really important. What would be because I know my listeners are all about daily practices. They love daily practices. Like, what would be a really powerful daily practice for them to begin unlocking that abundance?
Yeah. So, you know, I'm not married to a certain set of tools. You know, I'm not like, you must journal, or you must meditate, or you must move, you know, whatever. Like, I'm really big on find your bliss, you know, find what's working for you, find a system that is actually getting you results. You know, when we put together our new book, The Abundance Codes, it literally has, 52 codes, 52 days, which breaks down effectively a daily ritual in each and every single one, which takes you into all angles, because people are wired differently, and different things are required to be unlocked for different elements and different areas of your life as well. So you'll see in each of the codes, like there's a rewire for your mind, there's an energetic piece, there's a physical activator. Too many people aren't embodying their abundance. They're splitting their mind out, but their body is not actually holding it at a cellular level, So you can definitely go through that if you want a really simple step-by-step piece.
And we'll put the link in the show notes. Is it out?
Yeah, cool. Yes, it is.
Okay, good. Yeah, we'll put the link in the show notes, listeners. So grab that book.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And one of my defaults that personally I love to always go back to is journaling. And people often say to me, like, I don't know how to journal. And I'm like, but there's no wrong way to journal. You just pick up your pen and you write, right? It's that easy. And obviously when you get more intentional with questions that you're asking yourself through journaling, you can get more and more intentional and go deeper into it. But if you're just starting out with journaling, I love just firstly free journaling, and just, I call it purging out, right? Anything that's in your system. When you wake up and your mind's crazy and you're worried about something and you're thinking about that and wondering about this, just get it out, write it down, being like, here's everything that's present for me right now. And then from that place, from a clear place, you can actually intentionally go, okay, cool. How do I actually choose to set up my day for success? Or what do I choose to focus on and tap into right now? Or what is my big picture vision that I'm connecting to in this moment? And from that place, you start getting clear on this. Now, when you do the second piece, I encourage that you write it out as if it's already done. So you're not saying, I am going to manifest $50,000 this month.
Right.
You write it out from a place of, I'm so happy and grateful that I just manifested $50,000 this month. This feels so good. And I know this happens because I utilized this. I went over here and did that. I celebrated in this way and I did that. And you get super clear on the details. Now, what are you doing beyond your mind? This is where, like we talked about, you're using your mind to tap into all the other magic, right? So beyond that, you use your mind through the journaling to get into a certain state of being, to get into a feeling of feeling that this is done, and let that take you wherever it needs to take you. That might be more journaling and going for it with pages. That might be stopping and feeling what that feeling feels like. You can journal for 3 hours and feel nothing, and that means, to be honest, your journaling didn't work, right? Or you can journal for 35 seconds and get instantly into a feeling of like, wow, this feels so good. And that's like more potent than the 3 hours of journaling you just did.
Yeah, it's about diving into the feeling of already having it, of it already being accomplished, of it already being your reality. And that's so important, because I think that's the piece that a lot of people miss when it comes to manifesting. Like they talk about the affirmations, the vision boards, here's everything that I'm going to do. They don't actually fully embody it, or don't allow themselves to step into the feeling of having it already. And when we step into the feeling, it anchors you into that moment, which makes it feel more possible.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Regan, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom on today's Thought Leader today. Our time just flew by, and I absolutely loved our conversation. For everyone listening, Regan has an abundance of information online, and she has a ton of offers, and does retreats, which I think is super cool. I'm a big fan of retreats. So make sure you check her out online. Regan, why don't you tell our audience how they can stalk you online?
Yes, definitely. So I love it. All the social media goes, it's all under reganhillyer.com. So you can find me, reach out, send me a message and let me know that you came from this show. And then if you go to reganhillyer.com or all on the website, it's all there. So all under Regan Hillyer on social, and then reganhillyer.com.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here with me and for just having this conversation. I think it's so important as we're shifting new paradigms as a conscious collective. And I think it's crucial that we begin to, as individuals, shatter our paradigms in order for us to elevate as a collective.
Yes.
Right? Like we cannot elevate humanity if we're all still like carrying this programming that is not serving us as individuals. Like how the fuck are we going to do anything to elevate
Anything.
humanity if we're not elevating our own lives.
You're so right. And that's the exact reason that I come on shows like this, because I know that it might only be one person that listens and like really gets something that we talked about. But if that's the case, then it's worth it, because that creates a ripple effect. So yeah,
Definitely.
beautiful.
Well, thank you so much. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us in today's Thought Leader, where I'm challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. If you dig this episode with me and Regan, please be sure to drop a rating and review and share it with a friend. If you have any questions for myself or for Regan, please reach out to us on social media. Our links will be in the show notes. And I will see you back here on Thursday with a brand new episode of today's Thought Leader.